Imagine a sound. It's not a scary sound, not really, not like a monster. It's something deeper. The sound of a woman weeping every single night. And the source material calls it deeply, anciently sad.
And that's really at the heart of the story we're diving into today. It's this personal narrative that asks a really profound question.
Richard.
What happens when an emotion, in this case, this overwhelming grief, becomes so powerful, it actually starts to poison the land itself?
Yeah.
It literally distorts reality.
So our mission here is to follow that story.
Yeah.
It all takes place in a village called Bhairava, and the weeping, it's coming from a very specific spot.
Right. It's at the edge of the community by this old, gnarled banyan tree, and beneath it, there's just a single unmarked grave.
The story the kids were told, the sort of official legend, was pretty simple. They called her the Roan Walima, the weeping mother.
Yeah, a straightforward folktale. She lost her child, she died of grief, and now her spirit just weeps under the tree forever. Sad but simple.
But the reality was anything but simple. Our source makes it very clear that there were real physical consequences for getting too close.
And not just getting scared. People who went to that grave out of, morbid curiosity or even bravery, they came back broken.
Shattered. That's the word the source uses. They're completely disoriented, can't even remember their own name.
And the symptoms are so specific, so strange. They'd mumble about the world turning upside down or the stars spinning like a top.
And the ground feeling like water. It's like her sorrow wasn't just a sound, it was actively unraveling their perception of the world.
Okay, so let's unpack this, because this is where the story really kicks into gear. We get this classic clash of skepticism versus a terrifying reality.
Right, and it centers on the narrator, Samir, and his friend Junaid.
And Junaid is 17. Which the source says is, the perfect age for foolish, reckless confidence.
He just completely scoffs at the whole thing. He's saying the weeping is probably just the wind or a damn fox.
He absolutely refuses to believe that a sound, an emotion, could do that kind of physical damage to a person.
So he decides he's going to prove it. He's not just going to get close, he's going to walk right up to that grave and show everyone it's a sham.
And you can just feel the whole village holding its breath, because they know what happened to the others who tried.
And that arrogance it hits a brick wall.
Yeah.
Immediately.
He goes out that night, and they don't find him for hours. Just before dawn, he's wandering in circles in a sugarcane field a mile away from the tree.
He's not hurt, not physically, but his clothes are torn, his face is pale, and his eyes.
That's the part that's so chilling. The source says his eyes were wide and empty. No flicker of recognition.
His best friend, Samir, is standing right there, and Junaid is just mumbling nonsense words. Things about the moon falling from the sky.
Or trees whispering his name backwards. I mean, it's a total cognitive collapse.
Right, and in that moment, for Samir, the legend stops being some sad little folktale. It becomes this immediate, terrifying threat.
And this is so critical. The reaction isn't a typical haunting. There's no aggression, no violence. It's just erasure.
So that raises the big question for us. Why that? Why this specific disorienting reaction? A normal ghost story would be about revenge, not confusion.
Exactly. The very nature of the trauma, that mental shattering, it's the first real clue that this isn't about the ghost's anger. It's about something else entirely, something the village did.
So to figure that out, Samir knows he needs the real story, not the sanitized version.
Yep.
And there's only one person who has it.
Dadiyama, his grandmother's grandmother. And the source describes her face as holding the history of the entire village.
In that conversation, that's the pivot for this whole narrative. She confirms the story, but she gives him the one correction that changes everything.
It's such a powerful line.
She says, "We don't call her that because she weeps for her child.
We call her that because we made her weep."
And just like that, the entire story flips. It's not a ghost story anymore, it's a confession.
The woman's real name was Elara. And she came to the village years and years ago, during what the source calls a bad year. The rains hadn't come, there was sickness spreading.
And Elara was a widow, an outsider, and her baby was sick, burning with fever, the source says.
And this is where it gets really dark. This is where fear turns into cruelty.
Yeah.
The village elders, they saw her not as a person in need, but as a threat.
A burden, a potential carrier of the sickness that was already terrifying them. And Samir's own great-grandfather was one of those elders.
They chose self-preservation over compassion. They literally cast her out. They refused her medicine, refused her food. They pointed her to that barren spot under the banyan tree.
And she spent the night there alone with her dying child. By morning, the baby was gone.
And Elara, she didn't rage, she didn't curse them, she just gave up wasted away from a broken heart.
The villagers, feeling what the source calls just a sliver of guilt, buried them both in an unmarked grave. Tried to just cover it up, pretend it never happened.
But the land didn't forget. The weeping started the very next night.
So if we pull back, this is what Dariyama was explaining. The phenomenon isn't a curse of hatred.
Right, it's a curse of sorrow. The real curse isn't from Elara's spirit, it's the inherited guilt of the entire community. The land itself absorbed their shame.
And that explains the mechanism. That explains why Junaid had that reaction.
Exactly. When someone approaches that grave with arrogance, with doubt, like Junaid did, the land, it makes them feel what Elara felt.
Alone, confused, lost in a world that makes no sense.
It's a projection. It's the village's moral chaos from that night forced upon the intruder. Is her utter bewilderment made real?
So Junaid wasn't challenging a monster. He was challenging the weight of his own village's history, their own failure.
Yes, they had turned their victim into the villain. They made the weeping sound the source of the terror, so they wouldn't have to face the fact that the real terror was their own cruelty.
That's a huge realization for Samir. He gets it now. Defying this thing isn't about being brave or strong.
No, it's about acknowledging the truth. He knows he has to go to the grave, but not with a weapon. He has to go carrying the weight of the truth.
And this source describes that walk as just harrowing. As he gets closer, the air gets cold, heavy. The crickets go silent.
And the weeping isn't just a sound anymore. He says it was all around me. A pain so profound he could barely stand.
And then the disorientation starts. That dizziness, the world spinning. The curse is trying to take hold of him too.
But Samir does something different. He doesn't fight it. He focuses on her pain. He focuses on Elara.
He gets to the grave. He kneels and he does the one thing no one has done in generations. He apologizes.
And he uses her name. He says Elara. He acknowledges what they did, the cruelty, the fear, the shame. He basically accepts the generational debt.
And that changes everything. The weeping doesn't stop completely. It couldn't. Her grief was real.
But it lessens. It changes from that awful wail into a quiet whisper. The crushing weight lifts from the air.
The disorientation just fades, and it's replaced by what he calls a profound, aching sadness.
Because her grief had finally been heard. It had been acknowledged.
And the effect of that is immediate. Junaid, over the next few days, he makes a full recovery. His memory comes back. The light returns to his eyes.
He never talked about what happened out there, but he definitely never scoffed at the old stories again.
And today, the source says the weeping continues. But it's different now. It's not a terror anymore.
No, now it's a reminder. It's a memorial. It ensures the village never forgets what cruelty can be born from fear.
So the story became a tool for social memory. To heal, they had to stop seeing the ghost as a monster to be fought.
And start seeing her as a victim to be mourned.
The true horror here wasn't some supernatural entity. It was the memory of human failure, how fear can drive good people to do terrible things. This story really shows that sometimes the poison we feel in the land is just the weight of an unacknowledged past.
And that leaves us with a question, doesn't it, for all of us? When a community, driven by fear, turns away someone in need, that sorrow has to go somewhere. It doesn't just disappear. So you have to wonder, how many of our modern fears are social anxieties? How much of it is just inherited grief, waiting for someone to finally kneel down and say the name of the one they wronged?